Well, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, I think it's the 12th of May, and it's 7:15 in the morning. I'm off on my morning run. Not much light at the moment, so I'll run for a bit, and then I'll come back and talk to you about today's subject. Well, good morning again, everybody. It's still Monday, 12th of May. I suspect it's about 7 o'clock now. What you can see is a typical, Tasmanian late autumn, early winter morning of thick fog. The local people, I'm just running up the road that goes down to the lake. I went down as far as just past a little blue sign that tells you about no camping or something. I turn around and I'm going to head up towards the horse paddock. So I said when it was a bit lighter, I would talk about today's topic, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk about a bloke named Ange Postecoglou. Now, if you've never heard of him, he is the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, better known as Spurs, a team in the English Premier League. I'm talking about round ball football here. Tottenham's a suburb of London. The club is colloquially known as Spurs. Not really sure why. They're one of 5 or 6 London-based clubs, which includes Arsenal, West Ham, themselves, Fulham, Chelsea, and maybe some others. And he's their manager, and he's in his second season. Second season's almost over, and he's already coached 100 games for the club. So he's got a bit of form on the board, but I feel he has become a classic example of the tall poppy syndrome that exists in Australia, but he's on the other side of the world, so it's not just us that do that. And the tall poppy syndrome refers to that idea that if somebody in Australia gets a big head or gets too full of themselves, we enjoy tearing them down and bringing them back to size. Because we don't like people who are big-headed, and we don't like people who boast about themselves. We just want people to go about doing whatever it is that they do. Crossing a cattle grid, so I've got to slow down. Now, a little bit of background about Postecoglou and how he's reached the point that he's at now. I first became aware of him, and it's probably 25 or more years ago, maybe. He was the coach of the Australian under-17 men's football team, again referring to the round ball code of football. And I think they were called the Joeys. The senior team is called the Socceroos. And I think the under-17 team was always called the Joeys. Now they were, that is the Joeys, competing in an under-17 international tournament and Postecoglou was the coach. They performed rather badly in that tournament. I don't think they won a game and did nothing to enhance the players' reputation, Australia's reputation as a football nation, nor Postecoglou's reputation as a coach. After the tournament, he came back to Australia, just making a left-hand turn here and going up towards the horse paddock for the local folks. Okay, so after the tournament, he came back to Australia and was interviewed on SBS by Craig Foster, who's known, or was known then colloquially as Fozzie. He had been a member of the Socceroos. In fact, he'd been the captain at one stage, and now he was a pundit on SBS. And he, I'm trying to find a kind word to say what he did. He interviewed Postecoglou and made clear that Postecoglou's achievements were abysmal and he was an awful coach. He savaged him well and truly on television in front of an audience. And Postecoglou could have felt nothing but humiliation. I don't suppose he was happy with the team's performance, but he was certainly put in his place by Foster. Not too long afterwards, he left Australia and went back to Greece where he was born, and he came to Australia when he was a little kid, I think, so he lived most of his life here. And he went back to Greece and he was coaching, I think about 3 levels down from the top tier of Greek football, and just going about coaching and trying to win games and doing what it was that he knew how to do. Off the Australian radar, so we weren't taking too much, if any, notice of him. Now, I did read at one stage that he'd said that his footballing philosophy and his way of coaching was to get teams to play football that his father would want to come and watch. And by that, I assume he meant attractive, attacking, entertaining football that people pay money to come and see. So anyway, he coaches in Greece for a few years and then comes back to Australia and picks up his coaching career with what was then the NSL, National Soccer League, to, I think, mixed success. And then the NSL is disbanded and a new competition called the A-League gets off the ground, and he gets a coaching job with the Brisbane Roar. I think I'm correct in saying that in that time he won the competition 3 times. A three-peat, as we say these days. And his philosophy of playing football his father would pay to watch was at the heart of what he did. Entertaining, keep the ball, support the player on the ball, make good passes to people in better positions than you are, and attack the opposition. Football is essentially a simple game. When you've got the ball, you try to score goals. When you haven't got the ball, try to stop the other team from scoring goals. If you keep the ball for as long as you can, then other teams' opportunities for scoring are reduced. Anyhow, so he does this thing with Brisbane Roar for 3 seasons. Then he gets a better offer to go to Melbourne United. Melbourne Victory, I think they're called. Melbourne Victory. A bigger club, more money, bigger city, higher expectations. And Postecoglou has a plan, he has a philosophy, he has an idea, he knows what he's going to try and do, and he goes about doing it. And again, I think I'm correct in saying 3 seasons, 3 championships. Now in Australia, we're different from the Europeans in this regard. In Europe, if you're at the top of the table on the last day of the season, you win the competition. In Australia, if you're at the top of the table and everybody's played everybody else twice, you become what's called the minor premier. And then, depending on the competition, I think in the A-League it's the top 8, NRL it's certainly the top 8, AFL it's top 8 or something. You have what are called the playoffs, where you have preliminary finals and quarterfinals and semi-finals and God knows whatever else until you get down to the final 2 teams, and whoever wins that last game is actually the champion. So the team that might have won the minor premiership, or the Premier's Plate as it's called in the A-League, might get done on the final game or get knocked out before that, because the playoffs are all knockouts. As soon as you lose, in most circumstances, you're out. Whereas, as I said, in the UK and Europe, if you're at the top of the table at the end of the season, you win the silverware. So anyway, getting back to Melbourne Victory and Postecoglou, they win the championship 3 times in a row. He then gets an offer to go and coach in Japan. I suppose he saw it as a challenge, an opportunity to step out of the small Australian market, coach in a bigger arena and so on, and off he went. If I'm correct in what I understand, the team that he was coaching had just been relegated from the top division to the, I guess it's the 2nd division of the Japanese football competition. So in his first season as coach, he gets the team promoted back to the 1st division, J-League it's called. 2nd season, he wins the competition. So his philosophy has still been the same. I don't know if he speaks Japanese, but obviously he made the players there aware of what his philosophy was. They played to it and carried it out and won games and won competitions. He's obviously thinking, there's something in what I'm doing here. I'm on a roll, players support me, I'm winning games, competitions. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So on the basis of that success, he's offered the job as the coach of Celtic. Now in Scotland, if you know anything about Scottish football, there is a Scottish Premier League. I'm not sure how many teams there are in it, but the fact is there are only 2 teams that ever really win the competition in Scotland. One is Celtic and the other is Rangers. They're both based in the same city, Glasgow, and their matches between each other are known as the Old Firm. We call them the local derby, they just call them the Old Firm. So when he goes to Celtic, there's an expectation that he'll win the competition. Anything less than coming second is a failure. So 2 seasons, I think again I'm correct in saying 2 Scottish championships. Now along the way in all these other jobs he's had, there are other opportunities to win silverware, like domestic cup competitions, like the A-League Cup, I think it might be called, or the Scottish FA Cup, and so forth. But as far as Celtic's concerned, you win the league, because that's the thing people come out for week after week and buy their season tickets for, and so forth. So he wins the league 2 seasons in a row, as is expected of him. And Tottenham come knocking at his door, or at his agent's door, or however these things work, and ask him if he'd like to coach their team. Now, he's an Australian bloke, being now offered the opportunity to coach one of the top 5 clubs in London, or in the English Premier League, a big club as they refer to themselves, and as other clubs refer to he's ambitious, he's got hopes for his abilities, but he takes the job on. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. Tottenham haven't won a thing, not even an argument, since in 17 years before he goes there. Haven't won a domestic cup competition, haven't won a pre-season competition, they haven't won an argument in the phone booth in 17 years. And in that 17 years, they've no doubt burned through lots of managers thinking, we got this bloke because we thought he was the best in sliced bread, and we didn't win anything. So 1 year, 2 years, 2.5 years into a 3, 4, 5 year contract, we show him the door, pay him out, get somebody else. And they've had some big names: Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Mauricio Pochettino, to name but 3 of the managers they had before Postecoglou. In his first season, in his first 9 games, he earned more points than any manager in their first season in the history of the Premier League. I think I'm right in saying that. I hope I haven't embellished his story too much. Bear in mind, if you win in the UK or in England, you win a game, you get 3 points, you get 1 point for a draw. So in his first 9 games, I think he earned something like 24 points. And the Tottenham faithful are singing his praises, making up songs about him, chanting his name. I think he might have even won Manager of the Month at least once or twice in that time. And everybody's in love with everything Ange, and he can do no wrong. And then, as inevitably happens, other teams get a bit smart about how to play him. Fatigue sets in. Any number of reasons. The team begins losing a few games, and so things aren't quite as rosy, but still they're doing well. And there's talk of, we're going to win the league, so on and so forth. And to his credit, to be fair to him, in his first season he finished 5th in a 20-team competition where potentially, if the players were successful, in the Premier League there's 20 teams, so there's 39 games. And if you're in the cup competitions, you go deep into those, there's a bunch more games. And if you're playing in Europe, there's more games. So potentially, hello, Mr. Kangaroo, a team can play something like 60 games in a season. So finishing fifth is no mean feat. So he finishes fifth in his first season, and as a consequence of that, another kangaroo, he gets the team into European competition. Now let me explain that. Even though the UK has left the European Union, it still belongs to the European Football Association and still is allowed to play in its competitions. There are two competitions. One is called the European Championships, Champions League, I beg your pardon, Champions League, and that is a competition for teams that finish in the top four in every domestic competition in Europe. You've got to finish in the top four and you get to play in this other competition, which is like a mini World Cup because it's played in groups and it's played concurrently with Premier League games, and that's why it's possible to play up to 60 games a season, and you play it on a home and away basis. Now below that is another competition called the Europa League, and it's for the teams that finish 5, 6, 7 and 8. And because your team finished fifth, they get to play in that competition this year. Now, in the 2024-25 season just concluded, Tottenham had what can only be considered, by any standards, not a good season. They finished 16th out of 20 teams, managed to avoid being relegated, but they went from 5th to 16th, and that's not a good achievement. They had a host of injuries, as does every other club. So the manager, it's a case of, well, how do you manage the squad if you've got these injuries? How many players have you got at your disposal? How many games you've got to play, and so forth. Now, I don't know whether Postecoglou consciously decided at the start of the season, well, we're in this Europa League thing, we haven't won a thing in 17 years, let's prioritise this and try to win this thing. So he's now in the final, one game away from winning it, playing Manchester United, a mighty and proud club that I think finished 14th this season, and the manager there knows he'll be showing the door at the end of the season, and there'll be some players showing the door. And this is where the tall poppy syndrome and the UK press come in. Almost on the start of this season, that's the one that's just concluded. The football season started last August and concludes in May of this season. The English press and the pundits on TV, in the columns, podcasts, you name it, they've all been giving Ange a flogging. He's a thick-skinned bloke and he's used to it, but it doesn't make his job any easier when he knows that the press are baying for blood and the rabid supporters who expect success are also baying for his blood. The fact is, only one team can win the Premier League, only one team ultimately can win any of the domestic cup competitions, which are knockout comps. So sometimes improved performance is about all you're can realistically expect. Now, fair enough, finish 5th one season, 16th the next season. That's not an improved performance, and he deserves scrutiny and criticism for that. But it's more than likely that at the end of the season, whether he wins this Europa League or not, he'll be shown the door. And so it'll be a case of Tottenham doing what they've always done, getting what they've always got. They gave him a 3-year contract. Maybe it's worth sticking with him for the 3-year contract and then saying, well, we gave you, 3 years. You didn't win us a thing. See ya. Or we gave you 3 years. He said that he usually wins things in his second season, so there's hope that he'll win this competition, and then he'll be able to say, well, I told you I'd win something in the second season. I at least deserve a third one. My point, I guess I'm making, is football is a results-driven business. You win, you're doing well, and you deserve your job. If you're losing, you eventually will run out of luck, and the club will run out of patience, and you'll be shown the door. But I feel, just by the coverage that I've read in newspapers, seen on TV, social media posts, that sort of stuff, that there is an element of, well, this is Aussie upstart, I think he's doing coaching here, we'll put him in his place and he'll learn his lesson. So as quickly as they built him up as the greatest thing since sliced bread and the fresh breath of fresh air at the club and the league needed, they've taken great delight, perhaps even more, in tearing him down and sticking the knife into him. Now, I don't suppose he'll go home and burst into tears and complain about what a cruel, wicked world it is, because he knows he's in a cutthroat business, and what it does do is make him a little more thick-skinned, a little less friendly towards the media, a little harder. I hope, for his sake and for the supporters' sake, that he does win this competition. They'll have something to crow about. And 17 years without a drink is a long time. He'll have something else to add to his resume, and maybe get a third season, and maybe just the fans, the media, the pundits, the board, and everybody else who thinks they know will give him the benefit of the doubt that he does know what he's doing. And let him get on with it. Well, that's all I want to say about him. Thanks for listening and watching. If you have a comment, what to do, I'll respond when I become aware of it. Enjoy your day. I'm sure when the fog lifts here, It'll be a glorious day. Thank you for watching.